There we go. I'm delighted to welcome today to the podcast Isan Lewis, who is an astrologer. Welcome, Isan.
Well, thank you so much, Elaine, for inviting me on. I've been looking forward to this. And as I was just mentioning, your work is fascinating, what you're doing. And I think there's a kind of interface with the way I work, though I hadn't quite seen it like that before.
Yeah, absolutely. I speak to so many different people of so many different persuasions, and everything comes back to health and well-being in one sort or another, whether you're a business person or an astrologer or a health and well-being mentor, whatever, because
Yes.
We are the center of our universe, aren't we? And although we've got this big wide universe out there, unless we are solid in our own, our own well-being and our own wholeness, so to speak, we're floundering. So what type of well, should I say, that's the wrong way I've started that question off. Astrology covers so many different aspects. So how would you describe your part of astrology, your kind of persuasion, shall we say?
Well, I believe it's organic in the sense that we grow not just into ourselves, our bodies and minds and emotions and our soul, hopefully. But I think I have developed my work over 45 years. And one thing I'm very, very keen on, perhaps I wasn't quite so good at that at the very beginning when I was in my 20s, but I'm now 72, so I think I've learned a thing or two, is that it's so important to apply the map of astrology, what is above and what is below, to the person you're doing a consultation with. There's a lot of books on the subject, a lot of computer stuff, internet information. But the important thing is to work with the client, with the person. And I do see this as a tool for helping people. Ideally, I'd like to be doing it for free, but that's not going to happen due to obviously my own circumstances. But I do like to help people. And when I was in my teens, I had a real request from the universe to have a purpose. Sounds a bit precious, but I really wanted a purpose, Elaine. And I think I found it when I was about 26, 27, which may seem late or may seem early. And that's the beauty of my work, that I'm helping people from all ages, age brackets, walks of life. And it doesn't matter when we have new beginnings, it can be 90 or more. Mm-hmm. People do that with relationships even. And when you mentioned the word universe, just to point out that it comes from uni, which means unity, it means one. Okay, so we are all one, and we know that in quantum physics. We know that everything is interconnected. I'm a great believer that when we feel lonely, and some do more than others, that's when we're misaligned with certain people, work, locations. We're out of alignment. And when we actually have that confidence, I mean, that's an important word, actually. We can develop confidence to align with those matters in our outside life. That sense of loneliness, aloneness is something different. Loneliness goes away. It isn't always about whether we live on our own or how few or many friends we've got or family members. It is about alignment. And I think over the decades I've done my work, I've been more and more aware and in awe of how the rhythms in the universe, in the cosmos, the rhythms in nature, the rhythms in our own body are all in sync if we choose them to be so. Yeah. And whenever I talk to a client, I always say, well, the chart is you. There's 2,500 variables in a moment in time, where all the planets are and their angles to one another, the zodiac signs. But I think that working with the person is very important. And we do know our own cycles. We do know our own timing, because our bodies are from nature. I personally believe in a soul. I'm not religious, but I believe in a soul. But I think that our bodies are from nature. And when we can connect with nature more, then we connect with our own body. All of us can work with the moon cycles. We all can look up when there's a new moon, a full moon. There's rhythms. And my job as an astrologer is to look at it in more complex depth, to be able to look at a moment in time, whether it's your business, a project, your own birth, or birth of a relationship, and look at that moment in time and help somebody to be much more aware of their own rhythms and how they can work with them. And it's a toolbox basically to help people. And although astrology is so often linked with fortune telling, not in my book. I think I forget who said it might have been Henry Ford, but he said the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Easier said than done, much easier
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
you know.
And we're recording this now at the beginning of a new year, and 2024, I keep being told by any number of people that it's a very positive year.
Hmm.
Is that true in the world of astrology? Would you say it's going to be a positive, uplifting year for many of us?
I think if one could say that all the planets are in what we call a healthy or good position to one another, great, but it's never like that. It's like our inner worlds are a massive contradictions. They're like actors in a play going on and off stage, and they have different roles to play. And it's the same with a particular year. I personally like the number 2024. It seems very light, it's very vibrant. Do you feel that?
Yes, and I've been told it's an 8 year, and 8 apparently is good in numerology terms. I don't understand numerology, but I know it works and it's fascinating.
Well, 8 is very much linked with the octave. You know, you start with middle C on the piano, the next C up is an octave, so it's the same note at a higher frequency. It's very much a business number as well. Um, it's interesting when you turn 8 on its side, it's like the shape of the breast, you
Yes,
know?
yeah.
The cosmic lemniscate. It's a very powerful number. And of course, we all have our own year, particularly numerologically. So we add our day and our month. Like I'm 3rd of November, so that's 3, 1, 1 is 5. Add to 8. I mean, now it's 13, which makes 3 plus 1 is 4. I'm in a 4 year now, and that has its own meaning. Yes, things like that. No, but I think it is a very it's a year for waking up in many ways. It's a year for waking up, being more responsible, because there's so many unlived parts of us which we're scared of expressing. And our bodies will always tell us when we are dragging, it's an awful expression this, but to drag old skins into the future, we don't know when to shed them. We're too scared of being laughed at or criticised, not least of all by our own inner critic, which is quite a wagging finger character. We've all got that to some degree, wherever. So I do feel this is an important year for waking up, being much more self-responsible, because the blame culture, I don't know whether you agree with me, and there are genuine victims out there, we know that. There are so-called victims who can be highly manipulative, they love to blame. We put people up on pedestals to bring them down again very quickly. And I think we've just got to get over that this year.
Mm. I think it's very much about alignment and attunement, and as
So,
you alluded to, we're all frequent, we're all one, and we're all frequency. And
yes.
when we are with people who we're aligned with, we're on the same frequency, and we're attracting one another. And with the work that I do as well, I can tell if somebody's out of alignment, by looking at the behavioural profile. I can look at the behaviour patterns and see whether somebody is in alignment with who they truly are, or whether they're presenting a false front, which a lot of people do. And this mask that we carry around, and you said about getting in our own way, we do it all the time. We trip ourselves up, don't we?
We really do. And of course, we can be so frightened. I mean, fear, how do they separate those letters out? False evidence appearing real or
Yes,
something, false
yeah,
appearance, something of that kind.
yeah.
And sometimes where there's fear, there's a lot of control or self-control. If you meet somebody who's really controlling, self-control, usually find there's a lot of fear underneath. In astrology terms, I would link that with the planet Saturn, which is very much father time or mother time. And where we have our boundaries, our borders. And I think this is now a time period because Saturn in its 29.5 year cycle has been for the last year in the sign of Pisces, which is all about the ocean, is all about limitless boundaries. So they're very different bedfellows, principles, but we're having the opportunity to dissolve some of our self-imposed limitations. And this is quite scary because, again, it's so easy to get involved with other people's life, telling them what to do and so forth. And just looking at ourselves in a kind way, in a kind manner, and then looking at what we now need to dissolve. It's like when we first learn to swim, we think that water will not support us. And isn't it wonderful when we find it does? And you think when you're born, you're coming out of water into in other elements, but we do that naturally. So there's something about this year and the next, but particularly this year of 2024, Elaine, of having that courage, and that word comes from the heart, doesn't it? The passion of the heart.
Yes, of course.
It's lovely that. And having that courage, even when we're scared, to to surrender, not in a victim way, but to surrender, because the body wants to grow, it wants to flow. Nothing is fixed. What is identity after all?
Mm. I think letting go and letting be are very much in vogue these days. And I often hear myself say this: the older I get, the less I do, the more I achieve. So
Yes.
that's all about letting go and letting be, and trying not to get in my own way, and accepting that we've all got our own path in life. We've all got our own soul contracts and whatever, however people describe it. But at the end of the day, we're here once, as far as we know, but I'm sure many of us have been here a few times,
I believe.
learning the lessons. But we make the best of it. And I think kindness and compassion, respect, all the old values that we grew up with, with our grandparents teaching
Yes.
us how to do things naturally, and respecting our elders and that kind of thing. It just seems to have gone out of the window, and I think it's such a shame. So I'm hoping that this year is going to be one of almost restarting, reframing.
It's a lovely way of putting it, Elaine. Thank you for that. Because definitely it is about simplifying as well. And I know that when I pace myself and I don't sweat the small stuff, it all gets done. And I made a note to mention about pausing, and it's only our brains that don't. Music pauses, dance, nature, conversation, ideally. And when our brains say, oh, I'll just do that little bit more, and we're really tired or burnt out, it is our bodies, which are so wise, that will tell us. And again, I forget who quoted it, or wrote it in the first place, but there's a lovely quote about if we don't find time for recreation or recreation, or I might add pausing, sooner or later we're going to be obliged to find time for illness.
Absolutely, yes. That is so true. Yeah, so true. People say to me, well, I haven't got time for this and I haven't got time for that. And I say, well, you're going to have, the universe will make you have time. I had two breast cancers before I had stage 4 cancer in 2015. And I'm a firm believer that I got that because I wasn't listening the first 2 times I had these things sent. I didn't listen enough. And then the universe said, okay, we'll make you, you can't keep on at this pace. So many people don't ever think about pausing because they're so busy on the treadmill. They're in a job that many people don't like. 75%, every time surveys are done, 75% of the working population dislike their job. So they're working on the hamster wheel and a job they don't like. They pay for a house they never see because they're always at work. The whole thing just goes on. It's ridiculous.
Hamster on a wheel, a treadmill, yeah, absolutely. And I think the pausing, because life will get on without us.
Yes, yeah, funny that.
Even when they suddenly die, I mean, the people around, it does, they do cope.
Yeah.
What I see with astrology, which means the language of the stars, is cycles. That from the moment we're born, the planets are moving. We've got our own fixed chart, if you like, where the moon is and all the different planets and the signs they're in. As I compared it to actors in a play. Some have leading roles, some have walk-on parts, and some have stage fright. And when they don't come on, another actor has to play that role. So in life, we draw to us people who will act the roles that we don't,
Yeah.
which can be okay, but can trap them. And that's what I call fate. So when the cycles of the planets operating, whether they're very short or longer, it's not, is it not bad or good, but it's an opportunity, particularly with the more stressed aspects in a birth chart, which can be inherited as another consideration, how we can heal them and understanding why they're wounded and to work with them and to take full advantage of the energies where we're already very comfortable, but not to take them for granted. Because even like leading actors in a play, they need to leave the stage sometimes. They get typecast, burnout, yes. They may even get rather frustrated about people recognizing them as a role rather than them as a person. So it is like that. And I think the cycles of our lives, which astrology beautifully points out, doesn't show what will happen per se, but timing of troughs and peaks of change. And above all, with health, I think we've just been talking about that. It is about the pausing, the inner intuition, the inner tutor. So this year, I think, is going to be a real one for looking at that victim rescuer within us. Are we playing one of those codependent roles? One needs the other, if you like, and simplifying things, simplifying matters, and expanding. We don't always have to go traveling to explore. We can explore within, yes, because not everybody can or can afford it, or health-wise they're not up to it. So it is about the inner explorer coming on stage a lot this year. And the planet Pluto, our longest cycle planet, and it has a 248-year cycle to go through the 12 signs. Whereas compared to Jupiter, it takes 12 years to go through the signs, and Mars, it takes about 20 months. But Pluto, after 20 odd years in the sign of Capricorn, has entered, it was March last year. It's being repeated because it goes retrograde and comes back in. On January the 20th coming up. And then the third time, retrogrades again, back into Aquarius in November this year, and will stay until 2042. So it's a major one. You might say, what's that about? Well, Pluto's about our power. When it was in Capricorn for 20 years, very much about who we hand our authority to, whether they be doctors, politicians, people in our personal lives, and how we manage our power. And we have seen a lot of cracks occurring in that manner, haven't we?
We have indeed.
But in Aquarius, it's very much about the individual, very much about the humanitarian side of us, the community, and how we're communicating with that. So we could see, for example, AI, whatever we may think about that, on the increase, whether we like that or not. And again, it comes down to ethics, how it's going to be used. Biggie one, that one. So, but we are now in a cycle of 20 odd years of actually, which hasn't been there since the French Revolution and the Civil War and the Age of Reason, 248 years. It's a time of really opening up to new horizons and honoring our own individuality, but also the community around us, to have that equality, if you like. Does that make any sense?
It does, absolutely. And I've written the word down here, curiosity.
Yeah.
I'm hearing, be open and be curious. And then, we don't know where we're going to go. Just allow life to, just to be. I'm actually an Aquarian. It's my birthday in about 3 weeks. So
February 1, your February?
Yeah, February the 8th.
Okay, so that's around about, let me think, about 10, 11, 19, 20 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto won't cross that, your sun sign, till you get well into 2030s, but it's still in your sign. And it is looking at how you want to be futuristic, how it's okay to think outside the box.
I'm
Hugely, it's all about fairness.
Yeah, I'm huge on fairness, honesty, integrity, and I've really struggled with the last 3 years, 4 years of the lack of integrity and honesty that's been around us. I've really struggled with that big time. I've been very angry about it, and I've now accepted that, okay, well, people have a choice, and I have to respect people's choices, and me putting my opinions on other people because I can see the truth. I just have I don't know what the word is, intuitive knowledge. I just know what's right and what's not. I can't explain it. I just know. I just knew in late 2019 that something was wrong, but I couldn't explain it, and I was really angry and I couldn't explain myself. I've now got past all that and got the anger, but unfortunately it's fractured some relationships, but there we go. But the curiosity, the kindness, the compassion, the honesty, the integrity, all that stuff, really, really big in my world.
And I think also the sign of Pisces, 12th sign of the zodiac, they call it the collecting pail. We've all got Pisces somewhere in our birth charts, even if we don't have a planet in that. It's where we actually put all our experiences together, and it's all about compassion, but also having the boundaries. If it's opposite sign Virgo, having some boundaries and filter. We have to have those as well. I smiled when you said curiosity, because I think that's what keeps us youthful. It doesn't matter how many wrinkles or not one's got. My father passed on at 91. He was full of curiosity. kept him really healthy, I think, for him. And to know what's around the corner, you know, children will always want to look, even if you tell them there's nothing there of interest, they still want to look. And do you know what, Elaine, how many people don't have that curiosity? And it ages them. I really believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people I'll be 67 on the 8th of February, and a lot of people my age, it's almost like they've given up already. I feel I'm starting now. I really do feel that, you know, many years of experience behind me, lots of mistakes, of course, but also lots of good things. I can now harness that with the community, the compassion, the understanding that I've got in so many different areas. And I'm just looking forward to the next 20 years of
Oh,
causing mayhem, and curiosity will be on every street corner.
and I think Aquarius is very much about not just fairness and curiosity, like being born with a question mark in your eye. You want to know
Yeah,
why.
why exactly why? And of course, at school, I was always the black sheep because I was the one asking questions all the time and not conforming, not agree. I remember slapping my school teacher around the face. She was trying to make me write with my right hand. I'm left-handed. I was the only one in my year that was left-handed, and I remember once too often standing at the front of the class being humiliated while she's looking down on me, wagging her finger, and I'm looking out, and I thought I've had enough of this wag. I don't think my parents ever found out about it, but it's a memory that came back recently. So yes, I want to know why, you know, why I should do things, or why we shouldn't do things, you know,
Mm.
curiosity. How do people get hold of you, Isan, and what sort of service do you provide to clients?
I have a website which is Izan, my name, izan.com. It's that simple. And you can find out more about me and my work, my biography, of course, testimonials. I do a blog, which is on there, which tells all of us in everyday words what the planets and their messages are putting our way. I wrote a book called The Time Catcher, which is for the everyday person about timing in nature, in rhythms of our body, in music. So that's how they get hold of me. To my email address, it's on my website, phone number. And you know what, Elaine? I just love my work. It's my best friend, 45 years, and I'm blessed. I'm just blessed, and it's taken me all over the planet. So each time I think, oh, I don't want to be 72, I think, you know what? I was traveling at times and places where you don't go now, you do everything on Zoom or whatever. And I trained as a color therapist, so I use color with my work for health. And certainly I'm not a doctor or nurse, but I can see in the birth chart patterns which can lead to certain types of illness or inherited ones and how you're going to deal with it. And even time periods where perhaps it's good to have more rest, to have a retreat time. Because free will is it's so big, but we tend to neglect it, not just abuse it, we neglect free will. Because we want to stay with our familiarities, our habits, our patterns. Most people are afraid of the unknown.
Yes, I think I'm a great believer. There's two things that make the world go round: fear or love. And the sooner we can all get into the love zone as opposed to the fear, without wishing to sound slushy and woo woo. But when we're frightened of things, we close ourselves off, don't we? And the curiosity goes totally.
Freezes us, yes, like an icicle. And we
mm,
need to often say, well, it's like, you know, chuck some sunlight at it, just see it, breathe with it. But there's so much collective, well, you know this, but so much collective fear around. And then obviously lockdown, the whole pandemic didn't help on that one, but collective fear. And if we're sensitive beings, we pick up on it. And we do need to have techniques or little simple exercises to protect ourselves, not to make a prison for ourselves, but just in a very simple way to start our day with asking the universe for that support and balance and protection. And we set that intent for the day.
yes, yeah, that's a good point. I was going to ask you how you protect yourself from your clients, because when people come to you with all kinds of uh,
Mhm.
dysfunctional things, shall we say, how do you protect yourself so that you don't end up kind of going down with them?
Well, this can happen, of course, if you walk through town, go into a restaurant, a pub, or anything. I do start the day, I sort of surround, like opening up at the higher level to I call it God. We don't, whatever
Yes.
word wants to use,
Mm.
universal spirit, to its brightest white light come all the way through me, and then it spills out outside, giving a good boundary. Um, So that's what I do. I mean, I tend to see more clients it's on Zoom now, and it is hard sometimes to know where something's coming from. And it's a lovely thing you can do when you feel, or you even say when you start your day, any negative energy thoughts which reach me, I convert into positive love and return to the sender. And that's just a statement of intent, you know. So
Mm.
that's what I do. I find the color lime green, that yellow green color, very powerful for detoxing. When we feel a bit Velcro like, you know, anyone who's got a lot of Virgo in their charts knows that. But even so, and lime green is a color that decontaminates, detoxifies to have around you, that yellow green color.
Right,
So
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, we all find different ways. Yeah. And do you know that today is supposed to be Blue Monday, the third Monday in January?
Yeah,
I,
somebody told me that, but I think it's I just said happy Monday. You know, to me, every day is a blessing. You
I
know,
didn't even know about that. And I thought, well, if we buy into it, we buy into it, you know. But yes. Did you want to ask me anything in relation to your work and mine or anything?
well, you were saying about the retreats type, you know, retreating
Yes.
and the patterns and so on, and I
Thank
can tell by looking at somebody's behaviour pattern the likelihood of them being ill, what they're likely to be ill with, what symptoms. And I'm not a medically trained. I'm a nutritionist and biohacker, but I'm not medically trained. But it's interesting. I think there's some synergy between what we do in the health and well-being space, and definitely the colours are.
you.
I mean, you can see I'm wearing bright colours, and I had
Yes.
colours done years ago, and there was only one item of clothing. I had a really extensive wardrobe at the time, and there was only one item of clothing that I actually used to sleep in. I didn't even wear it during the day. Everything else was my colours. So intuitively,
You
um,
knew.
I knew. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, maybe we'll have a conversation off camera about how we might be able to collaborate in some way, because there's definitely some synergy there.
There definitely is. In terms of retreat times, obviously, me knowing a person's, myself knowing a person's chart, I can pick out time periods which are personal. But these general ones, for example, when we know the new moon is coming, which one can check anytime where the new moon, when the new moon is once a month, the 3 days before are the dark moon. Sounds a bit sinister, it's not.
Yeah.
What it means is it's honoring the inner world, retreating, letting a bit of chaos in, because the word chaos means a gap. Um, and to actually perhaps do less if you want to have emotions come up, do. And then at the new moon, you can seed the intent. Often the month before one's birthday, the 30 days before. So if you're, sorry, 8th of
Yeah.
February,
Yes. Yes. So that's now for me.
you're in it now, 8th of January, it can be a month where the energy can be a little lower. It's like the hour before the dawn.
Hmm.
Um, and if one knows one's birth chart with the time of birth, you have something called the rising or ascending sign. So if you're born at dawn, you've got the sun rising in Aquarius, and the rising sign would therefore be Aquarius. You'd be the two of them, the outer persona to the world, the rising sign, and the inner core would be, you know, more or less the same. But most people are born at a different time of day. So, for example, I'm a Scorpio sun, um, but my rising sign, based on my time of birth, that 2 hour window is Aquarius. So I can come over as more Aquarian, but inside that water Scorpio sign is also very powerful. So, and once you know that, you can look at the sign before the rising sign, and mine would be around about the 22nd of December to 22nd of January, and that is my ideal time over Christmas, New Year for detoxing, being
Oh, nice.
got to laugh at that one.
Yeah.
But so you can actually work out things of that kind. And the moon cycle for women, well, for men as well, but is very powerful of how we work with it.
Yeah. Interesting. I've never had my birth chart done, looked at, whatever. I don't know how you phrase it, and that's something maybe I should look at in due course. Um,
Yeah.
so presumably that's something that you do for clients, is it?
Well, it's what it is my work. I'm a writer as well and speaker, but mainly as clients, and often they do come back a lot from the past. Somebody contacted me the other day from 20 years ago, you know, and children who've grown up and they've done the readings for their parents or grandparents, and they've come and said, "Oh, I've been given it. I'm 17 or 18. Can we have another look at it?"
Wow.
And my sessions last about 90 minutes on Zoom or in person. Um, And it is like a navigational tool to understand your pathway, the soul, and the timings of change. And often you'll recognize them within you, but it's just nice to have that endorsed in an objective manner. And I do it for businesses as well, because your business is your baby, and that's got its own birth chart, the day it started, was registered. And it's an opportunity really to be more than we think we are, to all the parts we've put out in the wings of life. And what are we ready for? Yeah.
I saw an interview, I think it's on your website. You were on, was it Breakfast TV or something a little
Yeah.
while ago?
Yeah, this morning, talking for 7 minutes about children's charts with Dermot O'Leary and Alison Hammond. Yeah, that was over Skype. They wanted Skype, interestingly enough, and that was in lockdown, so I couldn't go into studio. No, so children's charts. It was just a little look at honing in on their questions. Yeah.
Interesting. So when babies are born, having a chart done then, and then, as you say, revisiting perhaps when they're 16, 18, 21, whatever the key markers are, it'll
Yeah.
be fascinating.
It
And
really will be, yeah. I do a lot of babies. I've just done one from a friend I've known since we were 9. You know, it's lovely to have a friend that long, and she's become a grandmother, and Hugo's 9, well, actually he's 9 months old. And it's just lovely talking to his parents and relating his chart to the parents' chart, because you can see the interfaces, and that can be really, and above all, seeing what kind of education suits a child.
that's a good one.
Well, some of us are more visual, some are more analytical, some are quick learners, some are whatever. And that really shows in a chart. And that's so useful for a parent to be aware of, you know. So it's a
Brilliant.
toolbox, yeah.
I host masterclasses every month, and I can feel a masterclass coming on with you at some stage this year if you're up for that.
I am up for it. I'm Aquarius rising, remember. I love to just say, oh, yes.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Well,
So,
thank you.
if for people who are listening on audio, if you could spell your name and your website, so they won't see what's on the screen.
Okay. My first name's Isan, that's Celtic, by the way. Ysanne. Lewis, Lewis. And my website's www.isanne.com.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, Isan, for your time today, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the very near future. Thank you.
I think it's going to be valuable for us both, and hopefully for other people as well.
Yes, yeah, that's what we're here for, our purpose.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, good. Well, I want to know more about you as well, so let's do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.